Buenos días, camaradas. Entiendo español más o menos, más menos que más. So unfortunately, I have to go to English. I'm very honored to be here. As a matter of fact, I'm quite nicely surprised because I thought I will be the total idiot not understanding architectural jargon. And then I'm surprised to notice that most of the people whom I met here, architects, are normal people, more or less, who speak like everyone among us. So again, my gratitude to you, my gratitude to persons who invited me, and especially, of course, to the nice introduction, which already brings me to the title, the topic. The paradoxical relationship between less and more. What has this to do with this generous introduction? I must say, frankly, that the description that was given of me, all those titles, books, professorships, in my miserable existence, I found it difficult to recognize myself in that figure of me. I felt a gap between that complex symbolic identity, professor, and so on, and simply me. In psychoanalysis, we call this gap between your symbolic title and your miserable real existence, symbolic castration. So thanks very much for a castrating experience. This is what you do to friends. Thank you. The era Apollo grounds the notion of envelope in a very precise idea of late capitalist dynamics based on the work of Gilles Deleuze and Peter Sloterdijk. His starting point is what I'm tempted to call neo-capitalist Deleuzianism. One should drop all, according to the era Apollo, all anti-market ideological utopianism and fully endorse the fact that the global market is the primary milieu of contemporary architectural politics. One should operate within the system of global capitalism. How? The main feature of globalization is the unheard of unleashing of the powers of deterritorialization, the process described long ago by Marx in the famous passage of the Communist Manifesto, quote, all fixed, fast-frozen relations with their train of ancient and venerable prejudices and opinions are swept away. All new-formed ones become antiquated before they can ossify. All that is solid melts into air. All that is holy is profaned. End of quote. This, however, does not mean that everything is gradually turning into a formless social slime. Deterritorialization itself creates the need for new modes of delimitation, which are no longer the old hierarchic fixed walls, but the multiplicity of envelopes, bubbles, containers of liquid reality. A quote from the era Apollo. Globalization has propelled a set of spatial typologies primarily determined by the capacity to conduct flow. Architects have tried to engage with this borderless space, the space of flows, by dissolving the envelope as an obstacle to flow and spatial continuity and presenting an image of the world as a chaotically flowing magma. However, a new picture is emerging in the form of bubbles and containers of liquid reality, end of quote. Here enters Peter Sloterdijk with his monumental trilogy Spheres. Far from advocating a return to pre-modern containment, Sloterdijk was the first to propose what one can call the provincialism for the global era. The world as a foamy space filled with bubbles and balloons of different scales and qualities. This capsular society and its phenomena, such as global provincialism, the politics of climatization, and the social uteri, describe a new paradigm that requires not just a reconsideration of the technologies and economics of the building envelope, but of its political, social, and psychological implications. So which are the political implications of this current appetite for the envelope as a device of insulation and immunization? Zaira Polo is well aware that the interior of a building is truly determined by the demands for efficiency, functionality, and so on. His wager is that the envelope, in its independence from the functional inside, can function as a potential space of freedom, of aesthetic autonomy, purveying its own message. To conclude, the basic message, it's a very modest one. I'm not sure that I know a lot. No, I'm sure that I don't know a lot of architecture. Is nonetheless what interests me in architecture. It's how architecture is, for me, the exemplary case of how ideology is at work precisely where you don't think you will find it. Even in buildings, or not only buildings in the larger sense, houses, but even house appliances and so on, where you think we have just pure functional objects, that even the most ordinary everyday objects can be objects not only to use them but to think with them. So to approach the conclusion, a couple of points, critical points to create enemies. First, I want to repeat, I'm sorry some of you already know it, but it's my big royal example to make this point. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. It always interested me, the paradox of, I already mentioned them, obviously I have some anal fixation here, I don't want to go into it, toilets. Did you notice if you traveled around the world how different they are? I simplify to the utmost, but this doesn't invalidate the analysis. I think if you go, I don't know how it's here, I just will mention 3 big civilizations, nations. In France, the whole of the toilet bowl is in the back, so that when you produce excrement, they quickly disappear in the hole. The German toilets, the old type, now they are disappearing, but you still find them, it's the opposite. The hole is in front, so that when you produce excrements, they're displayed in the bag, they don't disappear in water. This is the German ritual, you know, you should every morning sniff, inspect your sheets for traces of illness. It's high hermeneutic. I think the original meaning of hermeneutic for Germany is maybe this. Then in Anglo-Saxon world, United States, you get, you know, the toilet bowl which is full of water so that sheet floats in it before it disappears. And then I asked many of my friends, architects, interior designers, why these differences?